Hello everyone, it's Wyvern, and today I'm going to start stamp collecting, which the last couple months I've been, watching some YouTube videos about it, and mainly from a YouTuber called Silk on the Web, who is someone that you can just tell is so genuinely passionate about it and so gets so excited about it that I found it very infectious. So I sort of looked through my grandfather's childhood stamp collection again from the 1930s. I started, reading a stamp catalogue, and I got quite interested in trying to collect some. I mean, I've always been someone that collects stuff, as you might have seen other videos on this channel. Like, I've collected coins, but with the price of silver tripling in like the last year or so, it means collecting a lot of those is very expensive at the moment, and I find it's not fun to collect something when it feels like the price of it's at its like very peak. I feel like I don't like it. It feels like I'm wasting money. And then there's also the same thing happened with Pokemon cards, which I was collecting as well. I've sort of put that on hold when the prices of that just went wild. But stamps is something that, like, you can get a lot of really cool and sometimes very old stamps for very little money. And so I kind of liked the idea of kind of trying to get into it. So the question is, where do we begin? Now, when I was given my grandfather's stamp collection, 15 years ago or something like that, I was given it along with some old coins as well. And the coins I found it easier to get into, mainly because I wasn't terrified of damaging them just by vaguely looking in their direction. Whereas stamps were these very delicate, very old pieces of paper that I was very scared to even touch. And I also didn't know how to organize them. It felt very difficult if you had a stock book just to kind of move stuff around, and it's like, oh, what if you find a new one, you got to slot it in, and it all seemed quite difficult and irritating to me. But I have found something quite jolly, and that jolly thing is one of these. This is a Stanley Gibbons Hingeless Darvo album, and so what this allows us to do is we get these little spaces for individual stamps, and they have these little mounts here which just peel back, you pop the stamp in, and it's nice and safe. You've got spots for the different stamps. You don't have to worry about having to reorganize things. You don't have to worry about putting little hinges on them and damaging the stamps, and it's really cool. Now, I did get this second hand because brand new these things are like north of £200, and when I saw that I nearly passed out. So this was second hand, and I think there's a couple mounts that I might need to try and replace at some point, but generally it seems in pretty decent condition, and it did come with a free stamp, which hang on, here we go, the Edward the 7th 7p stamp there, and it looks like it's not been used. It's mint, which is quite nice. And so I think my first goal with stamp collecting is to try and fill up a lot of this album. Now, I'm well aware that I won't fill all of this album. I might not know terribly much about stamps, but I know that there are some issues. Like you can see the one down there. There's the £1 green, I believe it's called. They get very expensive. Like something like there's like the £5 orange Queen Victoria stamp that is like well north of £1,000. Yeah, I'm not not getting that. But I think a lot of the issues in here, especially if you get them in like used condition, we should be able to have a good go at. So that's going to be the first sort of job. And in that effort, I have gotten some stamps. Now, the first stamp we're going to be putting in here is this one, if the camera will focus. This is an 1841 Queen Victoria twopenny blue or twopenny blue. It's not the first twopenny blue issue, you can tell because it's got the little white lines there. So it's not the 1841, which is very expensive. This one this was the first stamp and like the only stamp I kind of got myself years ago before I started collecting. You see, like when I first got my grandfather's stamp collection, he had a very damaged penny black, he had a lot of penny reds, but never had a twopenny blue, and I thought I quite like the look of that stamp. So on an old website called Swap It, which was like a kid's version of eBay, I got this twopenny blue. It's been kind of cancelled there, but it's imperforate, so none of the little perforations around the side. It has been hinged at some point in its life, but I do believe I know where this goes in the album. Alright, so on the very first page here, in the top right, you can't really see it too well, but in the top right, it says 1841, and then it's got the 2D blue, and I believe that is where this imperforate issue goes. So we're going to just lift the mount up, pop it in, and then we have our stamp in the mount and we're good to go. Okay, so the next thing I did was actually go to a local stamp fair, which was a relatively short bus ride away, and I picked up some stamps there. Now, I didn't really know what I was looking at. In fact, I actually went twice. The first time I went, I realised I had nothing to put the stamps in, and so I just have these bits of paper that would probably get horribly damaged. The second time, however, I got one of these, which is a little miniature stock book, and it allows you to put these little stamps in here. And I got a couple for the book. I've also got a couple that are not for the book that I don't know what I'm going to do with yet. I'll show you those in a moment. And the first ones are these British Empire exhibitions from 1924, which was, as I understand it, Britain's first commemorative stamps, which is quite surprising to me. I would have thought like we would have had commemorative stamps earlier than the 1920s, because I know other countries did, but here we go. Quite a nice lion design on there. We've got both of them, so I'm going to pop the 1924 one into its little mount here, if I can get it open. Excellent. Then we also have the free halfpence issue. It's the same design, just different denomination, different colour, and those for the 1924. There is also the same stamps but dated 1925, which are more expensive. I guess there were less of them printed. So those are going to be kept an eye out for at some juncture. But yeah, those also haven't been used, so I'm quite pleased with them. Okay, so the next one is where it gets a little bit trickier for me, is where you start to have to tell between different types of the same sort of design of stamp. So we have this one here that I bought at the stamp fair, which is another tuppenny blue. But unlike the one we saw earlier, this one is perforated, and that already kind of scares me to figure it out, because there's different perforation sizes, so the sizes of each of the little spikes on the stamp. I'm going to need a perforation gauge to tell that, so that's already going to be a difficult one. And then there's also different watermarks, but however for this one I think we can tell which one or where this goes in the book, because it has letters in the top corners. Whereas I think these earlier 1854 tuppenny blues don't, so that rules out those. And I think where this goes instead is in the 1858 spot, where there's only one spot, and so thankfully I don't think I need to tell between perforations on this particular issue, so we just pop that one in for now. If I'm wrong, I'll soon find out, but oh, hang on. Thank you. In we go. And that's the spot in there. And then on the same page, I also got this stamp, which I also believe has different versions, perhaps. This is the 3p from, I believe, this is the 1865 issue, because the letters in the corners are quite large, as opposed to the smaller letters on this one up here. So we'll pop that one in. And I think we're off to a fairly decent start. So the next thing I did was go to an antique centre, and in one of the random stalls kind of tucked at the back that probably had been there for goodness knows how long, there were a lot of these like stamp packs. And I noticed a lot of the stamps here would be good for this book. We have this one, which is Olympia 1970, the London International Stamp Exhibition. And it seems like we have some stamps upon stamps. We have the penny black, the world's first postage stamp, kind of displayed here on this on the 5p. Then you have the embossed issue. Those are quite expensive as well, so I'm not looking forward to have to try and find one of those one day. And then also the first surface printed issue, which is quite cool. It's the 1970s. Now I could leave this in the pack, but this pack was only £1, and I feel like the stamps would be better in the album, so probably going to take them out. And also a lot of these packs are starting to warp quite badly. I don't know where they were stored, but they have not had very happy lives in recent years, it seems. But the next one we have is these Christmas 1970 stamps. Quite nice designs on those. Next we have the Notable Anniversaries issues from 1969. Oh, that's because that's something to mention. Is the Darvo album goes from 1840 to 1970, so that's kind of the date range that I'm looking at trying to get the stamps for at the moment. Anyway, so there's that one. Then we have the British Bridges set. I really like that one. Look at that. I would not want to try and cross that bridge in a hurry, I'm not going to lie. But very nice. And here you have the investiture of the Prince of Wales, many years before he became Charles III. Some nice castles along the bottom there. We have post office technology. I'll be honest, not my favourite looking stamps, but, you know, they fill some gaps, right? And then finally, the British Technology GPO pictorial issue. We've got nuclear power, a car. I vaguely recognise the shape of the car, but I don't know what car it is. We have like a radio telescope there. And we have a hovercraft. So I'm going to try and get those into the album. And then the next bit is stamps where I just quite like collecting anyway. And I don't know what to do with yet, that I just sort of saw and I just quite liked. So you saw when I was at the stamp fair earlier, I did pick up some stamps that were very much not remotely related to Great Britain or the Darvo album. And so here we have some early 1900s Barbados issues, which are really... I just love the horse design on those. We have a couple of older Barbados issues there. If I could just move the Canada stamp out of the way. There we go. Speaking of that Canada stamp from 1934, look at that. And again, these were like 50p to a pound each or something. And so I was like, I couldn't resist for how nice the designs were and how interesting the history looked that I'm going to have to research more. And then here's a Newfoundland stamp, which is really cool as well. Also picked up this Canada stamp from 1937 for 65 pence. Couldn't really argue with that. And then from the Antique Centre, I got this wonderful Christmas 1990 set, which is just, I love like the whole design here, and just again, these don't fit in the Darvo album, and I don't really plan on getting the later Darvo albums full of like the 90s 2000 stamps, because just so many start getting made that it's like, no thank you, it's just too many. But yeah, this is a look at that, even on the back is lovely as well. Who did this? So the 5 stamps were designed by John Gorham. Well, you did very, very well there. So, and the pack was also designed by John Gorham. But yeah, just really nice. Pack illustrations by Andrew Davidson as well. Well, this is wonderful. This cost £1. This is what I mean with like collecting stamps. You can get like lots of really lovely stamps for very little money, and I quite like that. Also, from the land of eBay for about £2, we got this unused 1923 United States Golden Gate 20-cent bridge stamp. Bloody heck, that was a mouthful, wasn't it? Yeah, that's really nice. I love the ship design, the light on the water there. It's just really cool. And again, like for a stamp that is now over 100 years old, for what, £2 that hasn't been used, excellent. But it's also stamps like that I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do with yet. I have a few ideas in mind, like could put them in a stockbook, could like use the Vario sheets, I think they're called, in like a lever arch file that you can kind of then like swap between like different locations if you need to move them about. I could try that. I've also saw an idea on Silk on the Web's channel actually of using like mounts and top loaders for certain stamps, so I might try that as well. And then the other thing I was like thinking about collecting was topical stamps as well. So like flowers, for example, just having like a stockbook full of like flower stamps, and then I don't have to worry about ordering so much or like dates or countries. Just stamp, looks nice, into the stockbook, job done. So that might be the next step we go as well. But yeah, this is a general foray into stamp collecting. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, and see you all again soon. Toodles!